All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, July 2nd, 2014, and this is Before the First Cup with Jules on UCY.TV. How's everybody doing this morning? It is kind of a cloudy, cool, chilly morning. I don't know, I was up a couple hours already, and when I woke up, it was sunny and kind of warm. But it has since gotten really overcast and kind of chilly, so I don't know what's going on. But, hey, at least it's not storming while I have wires connected to my head. And that is one thing that I worry about at times. I am just working on posting my coffee cup like I do most mornings, so we'll get that out there. Today is Coffee Before Talkie, which I think is a pretty, it's a pretty average phrase for me in the morning. So, I don't know what's been going on the last couple days. I have kind of had my head buried in the sand, trying to clean up lots and lots of stuff that's been sent my way and left for me before I can even imagine getting out of here for the holiday. So, I've kind of been occupied with that. Got like 20 more shows that I need to go through, get cut, reprogram, get everybody set so they can take a holiday before I can think about mine. I don't think there's anyone to do the show Friday, so I'm probably running a rebroad. I'm debating if I'm going to be around tomorrow. I got to see how far I get today. And then I don't know for next week what's going on, but somebody will be around or something will at least be running for this show. So I don't know. I've been sitting around for the last 2 hours. Came up with some pretty interesting news. I kind of missed everything last night. Don't even know. I don't know. I've been sick. I'm sure that you guys all know that. I had my crown, my permanent crown, put in yesterday, which kind of sucked. Had it out with my dentist. Let me just ask you guys something. So, I was absolutely fine a week and a half ago, and went to go have my crown done. And anyone who's had a crown knows how that kind of goes. They grind the tooth down that's cracked down to a little nibby, and then they make you bite something, and they make you a temporary plastic crown. Then they might make you bite something else, and they ship out the permanent one to the crown factory. And it takes a few weeks for that before you can get a permanent one in. So I was there about a week and a half ago. It was my very back molar that had cracked, and it had one of those big old amalgam fillings in it. So the dentist got out his Dremel tool and spent 40 minutes grinding it down to a little nibby. And, you try super hard not to swallow any of that crap, and they got the little sucker thing going. But, you always swallow a little bit of something. And, you got to figure there's, with the water that they're spraying in there, and the particulate matter that's spewing around, and especially in like a back molar that filling's probably 30 years old, there's got to be some bacteria. You know what I mean? It's all becoming aerosolized, and the dentist and his helper all have their little face masks on, but you're sitting there with no face mask. So anyway, wasn't thinking about this at all, but I know I've read all kinds of stories about bacteria in teeth and all the issues that they think they can cause. I mean, there are people that have heart issues. One of my friends and my mother, as a matter of fact, are two of them, that before they have any dental work done, they need to load up on antibiotics to prevent any type of whacked out infection. So anyway, I had this done about a week and a half ago. The very next day, I wake up feeling like I had gotten run over by a truck. And it was all on that side, too. The right-hand side was, like, all congested. And, like you feel like someone punched in the eye a couple times. But I'm like, oh, man. And you can catch them. If you catch a sinus infection, especially with allergies, you're pretty good at, feeling the signs. But you can catch them quick, especially if you just keep it cleaned out. Well, No, I made the mistake of doing a mass cleaning then a day or two later. Cleaned downstairs, moved kitty condos, vacuumed for a few hours, and inundated myself with dander and dust and cat hair. So by the time that was over, it was like a full-blown mega sinus infection. So anyway, I'm having a discussion. So I go back yesterday, and I'm having a discussion with my dentist, and I said, hey, you got me sick with a sinus infection, dude, and this really sucks, especially since it's coming up to the holiday, and I'm probably going to need some antibiotics because now it's in my chest to boot as some sort of bronchial infection, and I was fine before I got here. My dentist insisted to me that the bacteria in your mouth does not cause any issues at all whatsoever. I looked at him. I said, do you not read? He's like, oh, believe anything you see on the internet. I'm like, no, how about like science journals, okay? I just can't even believe. Here's the thing. I asked him, I said, hey, maybe this is a thought. Just because you don't track the number of infections of people whose back molars you Dremel, who get sinus infections, doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Why would it not be cautious before you went in and did any major restorative work on somebody's mouth to, take one of those little water squirters and spray some Listerine through there, right? Wouldn't you think? Like, disinfect the mouth before you go spreading bacteria everywhere. He didn't go for that, but end result is I did get some antibiotics out of him. Now I just have to see how far I can go without taking them so I don't ruin my freaking weekend. Anyway, long story short, it's just been a hard week, trust me. So sorry anybody yesterday who was expecting to hear like a new Proper Chick show or a new Canary Chronicles or a new what's Jonathan's show, Continual Condition. I don't know what happened with them. I came out here about 8 from a sleeping stupor, and I see they made like 7 phone calls to UCY.TV, which is not the broadcast Skype. So I don't know. They may have had dead air again for week number 2 or 3. But whatever. I'm only human. So get over it. All right. So let me see. Where do we go from here? I don't know. Hey, I did see something in the paper. I never read the paper, but sitting in the waiting room, it sits there and looks at me from the waiting room couch, so I have to grab it. But it appears that New York State may have told the fracking companies to go F off. I think it was a 5-2 vote yesterday that determined that each individual town or city has the option to vote whether or not to frack in New York State. And it was a big deal because it's been on the table for, I believe, 6 years now. There's been a moratorium, 5 or 6, in New York. The frackers have been sitting just over the border in Pennsylvania, chomping at the bit, trying to get in here. I had even heard through JJ that the Attorney General for New York State was representing fracking companies at the local level where there had been some bans put through, but then they were saying that was unconstitutional, and that the Attorney General for New York State was actually representing the fracking companies. That just is whacked. Paid for by the taxpayer to represent the fracking companies. Does not make sense. So I don't know if Cuomo is now going, oh shit, my numbers are so low because of the SAFE Act. I got to do something right or what. But something happened. So I haven't really understood the full ramifications of what I read yesterday about the fracking potential ban via each town. But one thing I can say, and here's why I'm almost thinking that this could have gone through this way. It's because if you guys remember, over the winter I read a story, and I found it in a local Syracuse publication online, stating that And some people are just so dumb. One of the reasons why fracking has caused such a stir, especially in New York, is that down in the hill country, a lot of people are on spring water. And there's a lot of oil and gas down there. And so, when they drill down through and they push all of their fluids in and you have all the byproducts, there have been people that have claimed that their water started on fire from methane. I mean, I saw some videos actually of the next town over from where my friends live down in the southern tier where they said that they had started some fracking across the street and they had lit their water on fire. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it, but here's the thing. I'm also going to say that down in the southern tier, there's lots of natural gas that's just oozing out of the ground. So, I mean, you can drive down a road and smell natural gas, and it's not a natural gas leak. It's just a natural gas expulsion from the ground. So, I mean, that, of course, too, if it was coming up with your water, would allow you to start your water on fire. But here's the concern. One of the big concerns about fracking is that if that fracking fluid spills or you have some large disposal problem, which they do down in Pennsylvania as well as from other parts of the country. I know that there is some recycling that is going on for the water, and I highly encourage that because fracking requires large amounts of fluid. And hey, they don't call it blue gold for nothing, right? I mean, pay attention to what's going on. Water is a commodity. And I would say brown water. I mean, why aren't they using brown water if they're going to use anything? Why would you use fresh water for fracking? But, so they got all this wastewater laying around, and the places that aren't recycling it, they need to get rid of it somewhere. Well, this local article that I read out of a Syracuse paper this winter had stated, here's what they're doing with it. They went to all the towns in New York, and they said, hey, you know what? We know that you can't afford all that salt for the streets in the wintertime, but we got a solution. We got this brine fluid that's loaded with salt, and we'll even give it to you for free. And you can just spread it all over your roads, and look at all that money you save salting your roads in the wintertime. And all of these communities said, hell yeah! And they took the brine fluid, including Erie County, the county that contains Buffalo. They took that brine fluid and spread it all over the roads this winter. Now, color me stupid, but Buffalo is right on the Niagara River and Lake Erie, and anything that gets sprayed into the roads is getting into the water table and eventually finding its way to Lake Erie. That brine fluid is fracking garbage, is what it is. So, hell, we don't have the frackers here, but they're just sending all their waste now to New York State to spray for free. Wow, what a deal on the roads for the wintertime. People are stupid. I think I must have posted that article on my personal page where all my Buffalo friends are about 8 times, and not one person, A, shared it, or B, commented on it. So either they just don't get it or they don't give two shits. How sad is that? So anyway, I am not going to get on this environmental thing today. I have more things I want to talk about. But I did want to mention the fracking debate may be at least at a local end at this point. It had been a long time in coming, and I'm glad that there was at least some forward movement that had kind of been a sticking point for me, and something that I found very irritating that nobody, I guess the EPA still hasn't completed their study, by the way. All these years, there's still nothing done. But whatever. Okay, so I am going to hit my main page if I can remember it. And hold on one second because I got to dial myself. But let's check it out. Got to make sure. Oh, God, I probably have so many things playing here in the background. Let me make sure I don't have anything playing. And I'm going to bring myself in because we got a couple clippies we're going to listen to this morning. I need to get some more coffee, too. But I do remember that my name starts with J, so that's always a good sign. Hey, by the way, I want to give everyone a heads up. We are going to have a website launch here shortly within the next few days. Pigmine is about ready to launch. PigmineNews.com. It's been a long time in coming, many years as a matter of fact, but I think he's got some good stuff going on. So that will be very soon. Pay attention. I'll let you guys know when that is 100%. All right, here, let's make sure I don't get any feedback. Bink. Oh, look at that. All right. I don't know. There's 100 tabs open, so I wasn't sure if anything was playing. Now let me just get back to my news page. Yay! We made it. I don't know if I'm going to do calls today or not. Maybe a little bit later, or if my page decides not to load, which kind of looks like it's happening right now. Hold on. We'll see if we could do more. There we go. Okay, so, hey, here's something that sure caught my eye this morning. Drum roll, please. Nicolas Sarkozy, Mr. Worm Lips, was charged. I'm not sure with what, but there was a whole thing going on between him and the old IMF chief way back when, and I still say that he was set up, and I think that was proven, by the way, him with that cleaning lady in the hotel in New York City. It was just as the IMF chief was saying, hey, let's go kind and gentler for IMF, especially with Libya, and I don't remember his name. What the hell was his name? The dude that was the IMF chief. He was also running against Sarkozy for president. So that seemed quite convenient at the time to take him out. And now that woman is in there, Lagarde, Christine Lagarde. But, hey, let's check this out. I just saw this news, so I was pretty excited. I want to find out what Worm Lips was charged with, so hold on. Let's see. Oh, it's really short, too. And I have no volume. Oops. It's one of those videos with no words to it. American Free Press, Freedom Press, whatever they're called. So hold on, I'll have to read to you. As the car is pulling out of the parking garage from the sortie, it says former French President Nicolas Sarkozy following 15 hours of questioning. Wow. And ex-leader is charged with corruption. No shit. And, oh, the anticipation is killing me. And that's all there is. Okay. That was 29 seconds. I wish I could get back. Oh, wait, there's no. It's former French President Nicolas Sarkozy is seen leaving the High Court in Paris following 15 hours of questioning after being charged with corruption and influence peddling. Hey, can we get some of our congressmen in on that trial as well? There was one more clip that was titled something to the likes of Congress for Sale. Really? Here we go. Go figure that out.
Elected representatives turn nearly everything they do into a press release or a photo op, but not this time. No one wants their fingerprints on this one, a move that, so to speak, sheds darkness, not light, on those overseas fact-finding trips that lawmakers seem to love, the kind that take them to exotic places with big money interest groups picking up the tab. Let's get more now from Justice correspondent Pamela Brown.
Members of Congress have had the travel bug for years, visiting places like the Old City in Jerusalem to get a sense of the age-old problems there. In fact, Israel, France, Turkey, and Ireland rank among the most popular destinations for lawmakers who are traveling there for free because private sponsors pick up the tab, totaling millions of dollars each year. It used to be each member of Congress must reveal who paid their tab on their personal financial disclosure forms, one of the most high-profile forms lawmakers must file. Now that requirement has changed.
It's clearly been done to allow members to escape accountability for lavish trips. Whenever a member of Congress takes an expensive trip, watchdog groups and their constituents ask questions. Why did they need to take this trip? And if they don't have to reveal this trip on their financial disclosure forms, people won't know about it. Buried on page 35 in the House Ethics Committee's guidelines provided to Congress members states the change, meaning the gift of travel, regardless of its dollar value and paid for by a private source, does not need to be reported. The unpublicized change went unnoticed until a reporter with the National Journal spotted it. The chairman of the House Transparency Caucus says that's part of the problem.
I only know what I read in the newspapers. I did not know this had taken place.
Now, Congress members must disclose all their travel records to the clerk's office instead. The House Ethics Committee says the information is still easily accessible and the change streamlines the process. Congressman Quigley disagrees.
The wise Supreme Court Justice said that sunshine is the best disinfectant. It doesn't hurt us to be duplicative. I think it helps us at a time when trust in Congress is at an all-time low to be as open and accountable as we possibly can.
The trips in question are financed by private, nonprofit groups, usually billed as fact-finding missions. House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi is speaking out about the change in a statement, asking the House Ethics Committee to reverse course. While the committee's aim was to simplify the disclosure process, Congress must always move in the direction of more disclosure, not less, she says.
And in a statement, the Ethics Committee tells CNN that it continues to enforce the requirement that all House members and staff who wish to accept privately sponsored travel must continue to receive prior approval and file detailed paperwork about any such trip within 15 days. Neither of those requirements have been changed or diluted in any way. And John, the committee is committed to effective and efficient public disclosure, according to the Ethics Committee in the statement that it provided to CNN.
You know, Pamela, we always complain about the lack of bipartisanship in Washington. I suppose if there's good news here, it's a bipartisan shrouding of disclosure and fact-finding here by the Ethics Committee. Explain to our viewers who this committee is. You know, we have the names and the pictures right now. We're going to put them up on the screen right now. This is a rare committee because it works differently than the others in Congress.
No, that's absolutely right, John. So there are 10 members of the House Ethics Committee, and it is the only
Wait, I'm going to stop for a second. This is kind of an oxymoron. House Committee on Ethics. All right, I'm going to play the end of this.
Committee that is split evenly among Republicans and Democrats. Now, we don't know how each member voted in this case because those votes are kept secret, but we do know there has to be a majority for a vote to pass, and that means that members of both parties would have had to have signed off on this requirement change.
As I said, a bipartisan shrouding going on here. Pamela Brown.
All right, so I guess Congress is still for sale, but now they have to maybe disclose who's buying them off. Something strange I just saw in that list of people, and you know what? Here, let me hit the mute. We're going to go back because they didn't read off the names, so I will read off the names. But Puerto Rico, I know, is kind of like a U.S. territory, but did they ever sign on to become the 51st state? I don't believe they did. Why do we have a Pedro Pierluisi, Democrat, Puerto Rico, on the House Committee on Ethics? Does anyone have any idea about that? Because that's the first I have ever seen that Puerto Rico's in the House. It's possible. It's possible. I know for a long time they kind of wanted to hop on board and become the 51st state. I just never heard that happened. Or is it an honorary seat? I don't know. Somebody has any idea, let me know. Here, hold on. Let me see if I can find where Chad is. And I will drop that video we just heard in there. Yeah, I don't know. So if I go to Congress, can I get bought off and get free trips that I accept freely from lobbying organizations that want to influence my vote as well as insider trade? Because holy shit, that's a whole new level of bonus, I would say, for me to cough up some cash up front to try to get my ass into Congress. $104,000 a year, a staff, an office, a car, stellar health care. Oh, hey, I got that recording beep going on again, apparently. Hello, NSA. On top of all that, I then can get lobbying gifts, unlimited sums, and insider trading, I would have to say that absolutely is a reason to go running for Congress. Yeah, right. I was actually trying to find a story. There was something from a few days ago when I was not on the air. If you give me just a second, we can see if we can find this, because there was something way more involved on this actual story. And I should probably scroll back anyway, because I have like 5 days to catch up with you guys on. I know Monday when I hopped on, I only did like 2 stories. And there's just so much fun to talk about. I see Hillary Clinton is coming back in the news. Like, I just really can't stand hearing about her. I don't know. This has one more minute for me to find the story, and then I'm going to give this up. Oh, I know. The story we talked about was the hospitals now using your credit card data to determine what you're eating and whether you're smoking, etc. If you remember that. And they'll be able to call you and make you do things. They'll be able to call your kids and try to convince them to get their vaccines or go for birth control. That was pretty whacked out. And it's definitely going to get more prevalent. That was happening in the North Carolina marketplace, I believe. So, Chuck, if you're there, let me know. Let me know how it goes with the healthcare down there. If they start interrogating you and tracking your purchases, that then they spew back to you when you go visit your primary care physician. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. So I guess I'm going to have to... I'm going to have to skip that story for now. But holy crap, there's like so many things I want to talk about. I don't even know where to start. And if I scroll up to get back to the stories, now I'm going to lose all this great stuff from down below. So I guess we're going to have to... Let's stick with the government for now. Obama says the system is rigged. Again. Really?
This is AP News Minute. President Barack Obama says Republican obstructionism in Congress is keeping intact a system that is rigged against average people trying to do the right thing. Obama says Republicans have blocked or voted down every single serious idea to help the middle class.
And there you go. And I'll tell you what, though, the reason why they released that is because he is on his Hail to the King march right now. If anyone's been paying attention, you know, this whole, what is he going after right now? Oh, damn, there's been so many of them. I don't even know. What's the one he's going for right now? I mean, you know he's going for gun control, but holy shit, hold on, I'm being distracted here. Let me take a quick look, because there was just one yesterday that I was like, Hail to the King! I think I added an expletive that started with an F in there somewhere as well. Hold on, we'll scroll down. La la la. Can I sing? La 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 la. So much for first show in the morning. Ow! Did it get deleted from my page? I wouldn't doubt it. I've seen that happen a few times. They don't like when you post stuff like that. It is. It's not on my page. What the hell? All right, then. Hold on. Because I guess I'm going to have to do it the hard way. I hate doing it the hard way in the morning. Yeah, now it's the really hard way in the morning. Because Facebook knows what I'm looking for. It's not going to even load. Fuck this. That's alright. I'm not singing now. The canary's flown! I'm just going to have to find the post that says Hail to the King. I don't know. Enjoy it or don't. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. I'm sick, damn it. Oh, no, that's all today. I think that video has vanished. Okay. And here we go. It's immigration. Right. That's what it was. We're just going to sign the papers to let them all in. I think that's a great idea.
America cannot wait forever for them to act. And that's why today I'm beginning a new effort to fix as much of our immigration system as I can on my own, without Congress. For more than a year, Republicans in the House of Representatives have refused to allow an up or down vote on that Senate bill or any legislation to fix our broken immigration system. Last week, he informed me the Republicans will continue to block a vote on immigration reform, at least for the remainder of this year. Some in the House Republican caucus are using the situation with unaccompanied children as their newest excuse to do nothing.
So that was it, I guess. Did you hear what he said? Screw Congress. Congress isn't voting the way I want them to, then I'm just going to ink it myself. You can't do that shit. I mean, why aren't people, I literally would say, this is torches. This is illegal. This needs to be stopped. Why aren't the congressmen doing a citizen's arrest or an impeachment or something? I mean, I get his thing. I've been in management. I know when you got plans and no one wants to play ball, and so you're sitting with all these ideas that you seem to think are good, but nobody else does, and nothing can go forward because no one will back you. But that doesn't mean your ideas are the best ideas. Maybe, but maybe not. That also doesn't mean that I could just go implement in my little fiefdom and say, screw the rest of the company. Does not work that way, and that's why there's a board of directors and why there's other managers and why there's an executive committee, at least in a corporate world. And in the government world, at least in our government, I thought there were multiple branches of checks and balances to prevent this from happening. So the fact that we're just allowing him to steamroll over the basic laws of this country, I find very problematic. And didn't he just do that same thing with like carbon credit stuff? I believe he did. Let's see, what else did he just do that with? There were a couple of them. And I'll tell you what, he said a few times about gun legislation that he's going to get it under the radar. Well, pay attention, because I bet you, a few more mass shootings, and that's all it's going to take. I saw a clip yesterday that New York City, under the new mayor, the numbers are up pretty high for shootings now. So I'm sure they're going to use that for any fight against the SAFE Act in New York. They're going to go, but look, shootings are way up in New York. Well, yeah, probably criminal shootings, guns that aren't registered and never will be. Maybe crime because you've caused the economy to suck so bad. What do you think's going to happen? So I don't know. Anyway, Barry just bugs me. We got the apocalypse coming for sure. There was a story here about Clinton. Oh, wait. Oh, so Obama is defending Clinton on her saying she's not rich, by the way. I ran across this one this morning.
The President of the United States asked by George Stephanopoulos late last week about this whole kerfuffle about Hillary Clinton saying we were dead broke when we left the White House. Hillary Clinton seeming a little bit out of touch when she talks about her wealth now and her husband's wealth on her book tour. Listen to the President coming to the defense of his former Secretary of State.
Hillary has been to this rodeo a bunch of times. She is in public service because she cares about the same folks that I talked to here today.
Oh, really?
She jumped back into the spotlight in a more explicitly political way.
Yes, she cares about you.
Fly speck like this, and she's accustomed to it. Over time, I don't think it's going to make a big difference.
There was a poll out over the weekend that said most Americans actually think Hillary Clinton gets them, understands them on these middle-class issues.
Oh, yeah.
I just love listening to the language of politicians. Fly-specked. She should be fly-specked on this. Is he right? Is this something that, look, she made a couple of mistakes, and she tried to clean them up, and it's 2014, and by the time we get around to 2016, as long as she doesn't do it again, she's okay, or do we not know?
It depends on if she learns how to talk about it. It's a question she's going to keep on getting until they learn how to deflect it properly, because right now it seems like she and her husband keep trying to talk about it and just throwing more gasoline onto the fire.
And he is absolutely right that the minute he said the term explicitly political, this is not a political tour, this is a book tour, remember? But her approval ratings have dipped since she left Secretary of State. I think she was in the 60s at the end of 2012, and she's down in the 50s now. So this is going to continue, but Jackie's absolutely right. She has to figure out a way to talk about this. It's not the wealth thing necessarily. It's the in the bubble thing.
This could be
she hasn't driven a car since 1996.
This could be one of the tests. You now have students at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, saying, "Hey, wait a minute. She's scheduled to speak there. She's supposed to get $225,000 to speak at a time when student tuitions are going up." So now a number of students, and they see the political opportunity these students do, are saying, "You should give some of that fee back to the school or put it into some kind of a scholarship fund." What does she do? Because she's going to give a lot of these speeches. If she does it for one, and she's taken from, I think, UCLA already in the past, does every state institution or public institution that's given her money or is about to say, hello?
Yeah. Well, and in fairness, I think the UNLV speech, the money came from a foundation that was money was raised privately. But these speaking fees, seem to be a snowballing issue for her. She's spoken to hedge funds. She's taken speaking fees from a group that opposed Obamacare. This UNLV speech happening at the same time Elizabeth Warren is down in Kentucky talking about student loans and saying, I'm just the daughter of a janitor, with a real message that kind of meets the populist moment. In contrast to Clinton, that looks a little problematic for her.
Well, in addition, Warren has a bill that she's been pushing having to do with tuition, so that certainly is unhelpful for Hillary Clinton.
A little pressure on Hillary Clinton. We'll see how she reacts.
So there you go. Yeah, I wasn't on air the day that news broke, but there was a university that was raising tuitions quite considerably for the kids, and Clinton spoke there and took her huge fee. And they're like, hey, so they're demanding now that she at least gives some of it back. And she came out a few weeks before that, and she's like, oh, no, I'm just like you. And if you remember her original run in 2008, that was kind of what she was touting, that she was like middle-class, blue-collar. Hey, give me a break. She's not blue-collar, middle-class, living in the Hamptons, wherever the hell she is. Seriously now. And there are still dumb people that believe that. There are still people out there like, yeah, Hillary is for the middle class that doesn't exist anymore. Keep believing that one and holding your breath. There was a story, too, like I said, yes, the apocalypse must be coming. Jeb Bush is catching up with Hillary Clinton in the presidential polls. Help! Help! This is really disturbing. Hillary Clinton may still be leading the potential Republican rival Jeb Bush and Rand Paul in polling for the 2016 presidential election, but a new poll shows that her advantage is shrinking considerably. I don't know if that was shortly after Bill Clinton came out and said Hillary is not brain damaged or not, though I guess the jury is still out on that. According to a new Zogby poll taken between June 27th and 29th, Clinton leads Bush by 12 points, 47% to 35%. That is a 7-point decrease when compared to poll results from early May when her lead was 49 to 32. Notably, Clinton's lead among key demographics is also taking a hit, all the while she has spent the last 2 weeks promoting herself and her new book called Hard Choices. Yeah, I bet that there were lots of hard choices there, Hillary. Among men, her lead is down from a high of 12 points over the last 3 Zogby polls to 6. I think she needs to start wearing lower-cut suits. Her standing with independents has decreased from 17 points to 10 and from 60 points to 22. From 60 points to 22 among Hispanics. Holy crap. Well, that must be why Barry's taken one for the Democrat team, maybe, on the immigration issue. If you remember, that was a big swing vote back in 2008 where they were promising amnesty. Do you remember that? Because I do. He gave a big speech to La Raza. And here's a few other interesting things, by the way, that I wanted to point out. Getting to the armed services, and maybe we can switch topics here a little bit. Speaking about illegal immigration, the armed services, we could look at the VA a little bit, and the Democrats. All right, so in 2008, he was promising in a speech to La Raza, and actually, maybe it was the 2012 election. I take that back because I wasn't doing radio in 08, but I was in 2012, and I was on air at that time. So it must have been for the 2012 election. They were making promises to La Raza about amnesty, and there would be a path to citizenship and all the stuff. So I just see a clip a few weeks ago that was talking about, or maybe it was a story. It was talking about a plan to be able to potentially allow illegals to join the armed services and to earn their citizenship. That came right on the tails of another story that had talked about how all of our recruitment numbers were down intentionally. The recruiting offices were making it much tougher to get in, and they had cut numbers. And it was like, oh, but no problem, because Obama is drawing down troop deployment all over the world, so we don't need all of these additional troops. Now, okay, they could tell you that all they want, but look at the reality of the situation, okay? How many troops and skirmishes are we now involved in on the continent of Africa? And I just saw we are dropping more troops into Iraq. We still got Afghanistan going on. There's all the troops in the Slavic countries around the Ukraine that we're doing exercises in now for our little proxy war that's still going on there with Russia. And how many other places around the world? We got the whole Japan-China thing going on. More war games. We got North Korea, who's dropping more test bombs. So there's definitely, at least in my eyes, I don't see troop reduction going on. So right there is one of those points where they're telling you one thing, but you see something else going on. So anyway, I see this story, and it's not the first time I had heard it, about path to citizenship using the military. And then, like I said, followed up with the story about how they are lowering recruitment numbers. Well, that kind of fits right in with lowering your recruitment numbers if you're planning on taking all these illegals that are just streaming in over the border and maybe giving them a path to citizenship. So anyway, I forgot what the connecting point to that is, but if you can hold on 1 second, I know it was in my feed here as I was scrolling. Of course, we have all this terrorism now ramping up everywhere because remember, be afraid of Al-Qaeda and all of the affiliates, all of the whack-a-mole terrorist groups out there, because they can now build undetectable bombs. Oh, here we go. Yes, reports show 2/3 of all young Americans are now ineligible for military service. Gotta wonder why that is. I don't know. Let's check it out.
Right now, it's time to show you some of this morning's headlines from around the globe. The Wall Street Journal says more than 2/3 of young Americans would not qualify for military service. The Pentagon says many 17 to 24-year-olds are ineligible because of obesity, no high school diploma, or felony convictions, and a growing number don't make it in because of large tattoos.
Tom Magazine.
So let's go back here. Hold on, because wouldn't you say that this is a problem if this is the majority of our 18-year-olds in this country now? Holy shit! Oh, hold on. I'm trying to play that again.
Would not qualify for military service. The Pentagon says many 17 to 24-year-olds are ineligible because of obesity, no high school diploma, or felony convictions.
So we're going to stop. They actually give some numbers here. So 28... We're going to mute so I can zoom in here. 28% of 17 to 24-year-olds would not qualify for cosmetic reasons. It says it's medical, which includes being overweight and mental health. I'm going to assume that also includes tattoos, and I know that there are issues with tattoos because of gang signs and whatever. 31% are overlapping reasons, which that does not give a definition. By the way, those tattoos cannot be on your fingers, your neck, or your face. Oh, that's interesting. I know someone who says that they were in the military but has tattoos on their fingers. Wonder how they pulled that one off, or maybe they never were in the service like I'd always suspected. Ha! And 8% are for drugs. And then 2% cannot qualify because of their lack of aptitude. 2% because of dependence, which I guess maybe when you go in you can't have dependence. I don't really know that. 1% because of their conduct. 29% out of all 17 to 24-year-olds in the United States do qualify for service. What a sad number that is. Seriously. I mean, are our youth that dysfunctional that they can't even qualify for basic military service? I mean, I know a diploma is not required. You could at least get a GED. I know people who have gotten their GED and have joined. But here, we look at these numbers and then we think about this whole path to citizenship that Obama has spoken about in the past, and it makes you wonder if that isn't the plan. Those kids coming over here would probably be very happy with 2 hots and a cot at this point. And now let's just executive order it all. And now we have just about free, except for room and board, military service. Think about that. Cannon fodder. Who's going to miss the Colombian kid? I don't know. To me, it seems like that is what is going on here. This is just my conjecture, but connecting a few dots together, I don't think that it is too hard to see. Here's the newest news from 19 hours ago. We are sending more troops to Iraq. I think it's over 700.
The Pentagon announcing just a few moments ago that an additional 300 U.S. troops are moving into Iraq. Let's explain this to everyone. 200 of these additional troops will be moving directly into providing security for the U.S. Embassy, for U.S. facilities in Iraq, and also for the U.S. positions at the Baghdad airport. An additional 100 troops who are already on standby close by in the Middle East also moving in. They are going to have additional helicopters, additional unmanned aerial vehicles. Their job, all of these additional 300 troops, will be to provide security for the U.S. troops and people at the embassy already there. You have your 300 advisors, and plus some additional people at the embassy. It's basically all now adding up to about 800 troops on the ground in and around the Baghdad area. And these additional new troops now being announced this afternoon, 300 more. Their main job will be security, help protecting U.S. facilities and protecting the personnel already there.
And Barbara, when we heard this announcement first from the president, from the administration, about sending members of the U.S. military or from the U.S. government in, it was up to 300 advisors is what we were told.
Right.
Obviously, this is different. This is troops. But do you have a sense that this is more of a ramp up than what was initially expected, or is this just sort of what goes along with those advisors and maybe we didn't have a number on it before?
No, I have to tell you, I think this is an indication that they do feel they need to really make sure they have security for Americans working at the embassy, for any Americans at the airport, for the American military advisors. They have got to have security nailed down for these people. We knew, for example, that there were 100 troops in a nearby country ready to move in to provide security if needed. Those troops going in now, but another 200 going in to do the same thing, to provide security. They will have helicopters, they will have arms, they will have unmanned aerial vehicles, drones flying overhead to keep watch. Clearly, they are feeling that they need to have more security around the Baghdad area, which is supposed to be under government control. And as troops, these advisors may in the coming days move north, out of Baghdad where they might run into some of these ISIS fighters. So clearly, I think they feel they've taken another look at it, and this is the additional security that they need. Because I have to tell you, every reporter covering the Pentagon has asked for days the obvious question, is this it? Are any more troops going in? And the answer we'd had until about 5 minutes ago was, no, that was it. But now we see another 300 going in, Brianna.
So this is just in response to the strength of ISIS?
Well, I think perhaps the strength of ISIS, the general uncertainty in Iraq right now about the security situation, and the fact that you're going to have eventually first 300 military advisors moving around the country. They have to be protected. If you're going to have helicopters and unmanned aerial vehicles perhaps operating out of Baghdad International Airport, that has to be protected. The Americans at the embassy have to be protected. They had a lot of firepower already there, supposedly, to do that. Marines at the embassy, extra security personnel. But now it looks like, they realize what they're dealing with and that they just simply need to have more security, more military security on the ground for the Americans.
I mean, come on. So now we're up to 800 troops. I distinctly remember. Let's see if we can find this. Wow, there's like a really weird noise. These beeps now on Skype. That never happened before. Let me see if I really quick can find that clip from a few days ago. Oh, wait here. From 2 weeks ago. On Pigmine 5. Oh, what? There's no... Oh, error occurred. It's not going to let me play it now. There was no volume.
Over the last several days, we've seen significant gains made by ISIL, a terrorist organization that operates in both Iraq and in Syria. In the face of a terrorist offensive, Iraqi security forces have proven unable to defend a number of cities, which has allowed the terrorists to overrun a part of Iraq's territory. And this poses a danger to Iraq and its people. And given the nature of these terrorists, it could pose a threat eventually to American interests as well. We will not be sending U.S. troops back into combat in Iraq, but I have asked my national security team to prepare a range of other options that could help support Iraq security forces, and I'll be reviewing those options in the days ahead. Any action that we may take to provide assistance to Iraqi security forces has to be joined by a serious and sincere effort by Iraq's leaders to set aside sectarian differences, to promote stability, and account for the legitimate interests of all of Iraq's communities, and to continue to build the capacity of an effective security force. We can't do it for them. And in the absence of this type of political effort, short-term military action, including any assistance we might provide, won't succeed. So this should be a wake-up call. Iraq's leaders have to demonstrate a willingness to make hard decisions and compromises on behalf of the Iraqi people in order to bring the country together. Now, Iraq's neighbors also have some responsibilities to support this process. Nobody has an interest in seeing terrorists gain a foothold inside of Iraq, and nobody is going to benefit from seeing Iraq descend into chaos. So the United States will do our part, but understand that ultimately it's up to the Iraqis as a sovereign nation to solve their problems.
I also, no troops in Iraq, 2 weeks later. And yes, Hecty brought up a good point in chat. There are 4 warships now, I believe, as of 2 weeks ago. And I don't see too much more news since then, but there were 4 warships that were heading to the Gulf from the U.S., into the waterways near there. I also saw that Iran as well as Russia were sending people to Iraq, and that was on the UCY page, so I'd have to actually go find that. But hold on, let's see if this ABC embedded video about the warships. Oh, but without the commercial. I really hate these commercials everywhere. And this is probably one of those 2-minute commercials to boot. Oh, yeah. Wow, it doesn't even give you a ticker to tell you how long you have to sit here and hold your breath. Oh, la, 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 la. This again was reinforcements sent to secure the U.S. Embassy. And here we go. Oh, but now it doesn't unmute. Come on, hold the phone. Maybe? There we go. All right, unmute.
Iraqi troops. No final decision made. President Obama huddling with his national security team tonight, and among the concerns, protecting the U.S. Embassy. And just look, you can see it right there, the embassy. About 5,000 U.S. citizens live and work there, many on the move already. And at this hour, another American warship is now headed toward Iraq. All of this coming after those horrifying images over the weekend. Iraqi soldiers in civilian clothes, many trained by American forces, being targeted by Islamic militants. ABC's chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz is in Baghdad for us again tonight.
Tonight, President Obama told Congress he is sending up to 275 soldiers and Marines to Iraq, 170 to protect Americans at the embassy in Baghdad.
All right, so that was the original 300.
It is a $700 million fortress, 80 football fields in size, built to withstand attack. But tonight we have learned a significant number of the 5,000 who live and work here have been evacuated.
Oh.
This as the ferocious terror group ISIS took down yet another city. They are Sunni Muslims driven to crush their bitter enemy, the Shia Muslim forces of Iraq's government. As they roll, they are getting help from Sunnis across the country. It is why today America added to its list of options. The warship on the move today has 5 Osprey tilt-rotor aircraft, which could help in an evacuation. But if the U.S. chooses to strike the militants, there is now in place a U.S. carrier able to launch 40 fighter jets to bomb the militants, and 2 ships that can fire cruise missiles. President Obama is also considering sending 100 special operations forces to Iraq as advisors to Iraqi troops. But in Baghdad, there was no waiting. This morning, we watched thousands of young men flood through the gates of an army recruiting center.
The men have all just shown up spontaneously. They were anywhere from about 12 years old and up. Some have already lost family members to the jihadi fighters.
Young and old, none given any training. But today in Baghdad, we also found this, a celebration amidst the fear, a wedding. A new family that somehow through it all looks to the future.
But, all right, so I just wanted to play that to illustrate that, yeah, I mean, this is as of, what, the 16th was 2 weeks ago. We sent already 4 ships in there, 275, she said, plus another 100 advisors, so it was 375. And now we're jacking the number up to 800, and those are ground troops, I believe. Here I found the clip about the Russian jet fighter now arriving in Iraq as well. And no audio to this. It looks like it might be a C-10 big cargo. Oh, yeah, well, it was a C-10 or whatever they call those. I think it's a C-10. The big cargo jets, and they're pushing fighter planes out of the belly of it. There was also another story. I know that there had been some conversations about Iran working with the U.S. Then I saw a few stories that said, oh, no, that was a false story. False story, Iran will not be working with the U.S. And then I saw that, yes, Iran is working with the U.S. But before we get there, RT put something out on the 29th, which was 3 days ago, so I am suspecting that the State Department at some point will be putting out another press release like the one I read the other day with all of ISIS's name changes to make sure that the Treasury Department has it correct for when they cut the checks. ISIS declares creation of Islamic State in the Middle East, a new era of international jihad. They have now changed their name, I guess, from ISIS to IS. That almost sounds like a bad joke, does it not? That's what I thought, but no, it was breaking news. ISIS jihadists have declared the captured territories from Iraq's Diyala province to Syria's Aleppo, a new Islamic State, a caliphate, they call it. They removed Iraq and the Levant from their name. Now, come on. Wasn't their official name the ISIL, also affectionately known as the ISIS, formerly known as, and then there were like 32 other names that I read, formerly also associated with al-Nusra, who we are not affiliated with anymore, right? There was that whole State Department press release. So now we are no longer ISIL, we are now IS. Oh, this is ridiculous. ISIS announced that it should be now called the Islamic State. You know, I really think I need to find that Python clip that I keep quoting. Hold on, we are going to find it. I think it was from the Life of Brian, and it was the People's Front of Judea. Let's see if we can find it, because this would be the miracle of the internet. If we can, oh my God, I did. Here, this is what they remind me of, so it is a big joke to me every time I see any of this. Oh, and here comes a commercial. But it's only a 5-second commercial, because that's the typical.
You're the Judean People's Front? Fuck off. What? Judean People's Front. The People's Front of Judea. Judean People's Front. Come, wankers. Can I join your group? I didn't want to sell this stuff. It's only a job. I hate the Romans as much as anybody.
You sure?
Oh, dead sure. I hate the Romans already. Listen, if you wanted to join the PFJ, you'd have to really hate the Romans.
The PFJ.
Oh, yeah, how much? A lot. Right, you're in. Listen, the only people we hate more than the Romans are the fucking Judean People's Front. And the Judean Popular People's Front. Oh, yeah. And the People's Front of Judea. Yes. The People's Front of Judea. Splitters. We're the People's Front of Judea. Oh. Popular Front. People's Front. Whatever happened to the Popular Front? He's over there.
I've been dying to play that clip for like months. That's what this reminds me of. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. So, all right. So now they're going to be called the IS. ISIS announced that it should now be called the Islamic Front. So maybe they'll call themselves Tis the season, and declared its chief Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi as the caliph of the new state and, quote, leader for Muslims everywhere. The radical Sunni militant group said in an audio recording distributed, oh yes, via that pesky internet that's radicalizing everybody on Sunday. This is the first time since the fall of the Ottoman Empire in 1923 that a caliph, which means a political successor to the Prophet Muhammad, has been declared. Oh, look out, guys. Holy jihad. The decision was made following the group's Susra Council meeting on Sunday, according to ISIS spokesman Abu Muhammad al-Adjani. Now, shouldn't it have been the ISIS spokesman? The new Islamic State has marked its borders, spanning the territory captured by the group in a bloody rampage from Iraq's volatile Diyala province to Syria's war-torn Aleppo. The jihadist group has also claimed that they are now a legitimate state. The Islamic State has called on al-Qaeda and other radical Sunni militants in the region to immediately pledge their allegiance, ushering in, quote, a new era of international jihad. The Surah Council of the Islamic State met and discussed the issue. The Islamic State decided to establish an Islamic caliphate and designate a caliph for the state of the Muslims, said the group's spokesman. He described the establishment of the caliphate as, quote, the dream in all the Muslims and the hope of all the jihadists. The militant group, notorious for its brutal violence, turned by the United States CIA, and separated from al-Qaeda in early 2014, it has seized major areas of the West and northern Iraq in recent weeks, committing mass murders opposing Shia Muslims in the region. ISIS, previously, now known as, previously made statements vowing to siege the Iraqi capital Baghdad and to march and capture the holy Shia sites of Najif and Barkala. So there you go. How much more fun can this be? We now have a caliph for the first time since the Ottoman Empire in 1923. That has got to have some significance to somebody. Not really sure what the significance is, except that maybe that is the call for international jihadis everywhere. Kind of disturbing. Perfect setup, especially now that al-Qaeda is creating undetectable bombs, which is now going to lead the TSA to ramp up security everywhere and for the warnings all over to look out for the big terrorist attacks that are coming to U.S. soil. Put on a seatbelt, people.
They are Homeland Security's most dreaded threats. Explosive devices hidden in objects from shoes to toothpaste tubes and undetectable by airport security. Now the U.S. is considering new airport security measures due to increased concerns that terrorists from al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, or AQAP, are developing new bomb designs to fool current security screening.
We remain concerned about the capability of some of these elements to develop weapons that could be thwarted by our current security systems.
Officials tell CNN there is no imminent threat or plot. However, an additional vulnerability has been identified, which the Department of Homeland Security is currently working to address.
The Department of Homeland Security is regularly reviewing our security procedures to adapt to the threat that is faced by our transportation system. As advisories are required to adequately inform the traveling public, we'll make those announcements.
Representative Peter King discussed the threat on ABC's This Week.
A number of airports do not have the type of security they should have. And basically, we're saying anyone that will be having someone who can fly to the U.S., they have to increase their security. We're going to be pushing it, but overseas airport security is a real concern.
This is the man believed to be behind the threat, AQAP master bomb maker Ibrahim al-Asiri. In recent months, U.S. officials have warned that Asiri and AQAP terrorists trained under him were improving designs of new explosive devices, such as shoe bombs, that could fool screening systems. The threat has grown all the more severe as chaos in Syria and Iraq has created a safe haven for terror groups to train, plot, and recruit Westerners to join their fight.
Allowing them to pool up in Syria, allowing them to have safe haven the size of Indiana between Syria and Iraq, and I say they, I mean al-Qaeda-minded individuals that now have an army. That is as dangerous a time for an al-Qaeda threat to the United States as I've ever seen.
Yeah, they have an army. And I'm sure that half that army is probably funded, armed, trained by us. You know, I mean, how many times does Hillary Clinton admit that we helped bring about al-Qaeda by arming and training the Mujahideen? Right? Bin Laden had been a CIA asset, right? Yes, he had been, as had been Gaddafi, as had been Saddam Hussein. And, eventually we're going to have to take them out. So let's make sure we get the troops in there. I don't really have the entire picture yet in my head as to what benefit this is going to have beyond securing the oil fields, number one, making more money for Halliburton and all the Bush butt buddies, number two. I don't know, proxy war. I mean, we got Russia and Iran now that are going to help us defend, maybe. It's just so convoluted, it's making my head spin. Brandon Turberville did the last two shows all about ISIS in Iraq and kind of some of what's going on there. I missed Brandon's show Monday night, so I'm going to have to catch up on that one. But the one that ran Friday was the first one, and then he was on here Friday. I think it was Friday. He called in for about 40 minutes and gave us a good rundown, which, was extremely helpful. But the long-term goal here, I am really kind of at a loss for, unless it's just to create chaos. I mean, like they said, oh, God forbid, now there's jihadists everywhere. They are radicalizing our youth. Look at, only 29% of our youth are eligible to become soldiers for the United States, so they must be criminals or gang members. They're all being radicalized via the internet. I mean, is this the clampdown that they've been waiting for? We got to ramp up our security. Oh, God forbid we see that there is another huge hole now in the utility system for hacks. I don't know if you guys caught that. We could talk about that in a few minutes. I believe the show for Saturday that Libby sent me for her nuclear hot seat Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern is all about that and the new vulnerabilities with the nuclear power plants that have been discovered. There was another clip here. This one was from Russia Today. It looks like one of the Russian dudes doing this. I don't think it's Igor, though. Talking about the direct American role in strengthening jihadists. Oh, go figure. Like we wouldn't have believed.
Jihadist militants fighting in Syria and Iraq have declared the creation of an Islamist state spanning parts of both countries. The now notorious Al-Qaeda breakaway group known as the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or ISIS, is behind the declaration. And they are urging other jihadist groups to pledge allegiance to the new state. As you can see clearly on our map here, its territory covers the north of Syria and the eastern half of Iraq, which is home to rich oil fields. So the question then arises, where exactly does ISIS get the funding that it needs in order to seize power in the region? Well, it's thought that the group has powerful sponsors in the Gulf states which fund its activities. ISIS is also involved in smuggling, extortion and bank robberies. In the course of its rapid advance on Baghdad, the group took control of stockpiles of US-made weaponry.
Yes,
and even Washington has played its role in the rise of ISIS, as RT's Marina Portnayer explains.
The newest terrorist organization, known as ISIS, is overtaking al-Qaeda's reign as public enemy number one. Sunni Islamic militants are unleashing brutality and bloodshed in Iraq. But it's next door, in Syria, during a 3-year civil war, where the extremist group got its start.
We are where we are because we armed the Syrian rebels. We have been fighting alongside Al-Qaeda, fighting alongside ISIS. ISIS is now emboldened in 2 countries. But here's the anomaly. We're with ISIS in Syria. We're on the same side of the war. So those who want to get involved to stop ISIS in Iraq are allied with ISIS in Syria.
There you go. That was Rand Paul. But that's what we've been saying all along. I mean, we've watched this develop from the whole Benghazi scandal in Libya and Stevens getting killed. All of that was due to the fact that there were guns being run out of there through Saudi Arabia to Turkey to train these militants. And like I've said a million times before, you also saw all of the Guantanamo-esque prison breaks, the mysterious prison breaks, of all these dudes that have been locked up and tortured from the Bush-Cheney era released and all pronouncing jihad. See, I can still make that high-pitched noise as they're fleeing to go get their training and their AK-47 Russian weapons to be then sent into Syria to combat Assad. I mean, we were responsible for that. And as we sent them in there to combat Assad, and fight as the rebels. I also distinctly remember Obama making it legal, because Madison did an article about this, Obama making it legal for the United States public to contribute donations to help support them. And I remember at the time, I was like, are you kidding me? They just had passed the newest version of the NDAA that had made it an act of terrorism to be found to be supporting any type of terrorist group. Apparently, except for that terrorist group that the U.S. government was funding. So now they get out of control, intentionally or unintentionally, and spread across the border and start wiping out any modicum of normalcy that had begun to develop again in Iraq, which I don't believe there really ever was much of any. I remember a clip from a few months ago that had rated Baghdad on the scale of all cities on the planet, the absolute worst place to live. You know, thank you, USA, for that. So we left it like that. You know, I don't know. I don't know how much of this new decimation is true or not. I mean, I know that they were trying, but I don't think it was unicorns and rainbows over there before ISIS came in either. And, you know, I've seen a few clips recently, too, talking about ISIS being such a terrorist group and so bloodthirsty. You know, you remember in the beginning they were showing videos of them lining people up on the ground, aiming guns at their head next to a shallow ditch to bury them in. But then I saw clips the other day of them driving what looked to be some pretty new American vehicles loaded with people, jihadis driving it, and children and families all hanging off of it, like all cheering ISIS. So what really is going on there? You know, are these people coming in and saying, well, let's get things back to the way they should be and let's have some stability by putting some jihadi law into place where there had been a big power vacuum after the, you know, how many ever years were we in there? 8, 10, 12 years of bombing in that country, and then we just kind of pulled out and left the security forces who were poorly trained, who were having their asses handed to them, and they weren't protecting anything. Seemed like Lawlessville over there. So I don't know. I don't know what the people are thinking. I really wish that we had some reliable sources inside that could give us a pulse on what's going on. All we have is the propaganda that's getting spewed out of there from the mainstream. You know, I play the clips. I try to understand the clips. I mean, this clip right here that we're listening to is from RT. Obviously, RT is from a counterpoint, and they have their own propaganda agenda, pumping us information. It tends to be contrary to the information that our ABC, CBS, NBC are putting out. So anyway, let's listen to the rest of this clip.
That is the real contradiction to this whole policy.
Right. According to reports, the U.S. government may have inadvertently played a direct role in strengthening extremists.
There are also allegations that the United States may have been involved in some of the training of these ISIS insurgents at a training camp in Jordan. So the Saudis, the Qataris, others are directly involved in this regime change policy in Syria and in Iraq, and the United States has helped and created these conditions. And this will cause chaos and expanding war in the region.
According to German magazine Der Spiegel, Americans were still in Jordan in March of last year, training up to 1,200 members of the Free Syrian Army to use anti-tank weaponry.
We have spent a lot of time trying to work with a moderate opposition in Syria.
Now, the White House is ready to spend a lot of money.
Actually, I'm going to stop for 1 second. There was something that came up in the conversation with Brandon on Friday. I had not heard about Jordan. I knew about Turkey. That had come out in a few different clips and a few stories, and the CIA had actually admitted that they were training these militants in Turkey. But, yeah, Jordan was a new piece of the puzzle that I just discovered.
The Obama administration has requested $500 million to arm and train Syrian rebels fighting to topple President Bashar Assad.
$500 million? What? Oh my God. $500 million. How many people in this country could that get, I don't know, health care for? How about how many people could that get some food for? How many retirees that don't have enough to pay their bills could that help? Oh my God, $500 million. I get really upset when I hear this. All right.
U.S. officials claim only appropriate vetted members of the moderate Syrian opposition will receive American weapons and ammo. Problem is, it's not always easy to differentiate between the moderate and terrorist. Here,
and we also know that as ISIS has been spreading through Iraq, the Iraqi army, or whatever they call them, the police force that was there, abandoned their posts in many of the places and just gave up all that U.S. weaponry that was sitting around in the desert out there. So we lost all that, too. One of the things I wanted to mention here, too, and I have not heard a lot of discussion about this, but I had watched a few clips back in the early days of smart weaponry, and there may have even been a story about it. I think I've talked about this before on air, but they were discussing how using the smart weaponry with GPS collocation, they can give these weapons to these jihadists and then program them to only be good, only be workable, usable weaponry within a certain time frame, within a certain geographical location, and then render them inoperable when it's time to turn them off. That has not really ever been discussed that I've seen yet in regards to the consumer version of some of these smart pistols that they've been introducing with the ring or the little wrist key fob thing that they have going on. But I have a feeling that some of these weapons, some of the stuff that's going on is actually a test for some of that smart weaponry, just so you know. All right, here we go.
Here's U.S. Senator John McCain posing with members of ISIS.
There we go.
The photo is now reportedly being circulated by the group as proof of their legitimacy.
Now, wasn't that on Memorial Day? I believe it was.
Not to be disputed, the legitimacy of ISIS's gruesome behavior. Violence so horrific, some report Osama bin Laden looks like a gentle soul in comparison.
As the newest group of terrorists is growing stronger and gaining more ground throughout the Arab world, their safe haven remains in Syria, where the White House is promising to send more weapons with the goal of establishing peace. Marina Portnaya, RT, Washington, D.C.
And it's not just Gulf countries or the US behind the rise of the militants operating in Syria. We spoke to Dr. Hussein Barji from the Middle East Technical University, who says Turkey has been widely supporting jihadists in its bid to undermine Assad.
We know that the Turkish government, in particular in Syria, is entertaining strong and close relations with Islamic groups. The Turkish government until now has not used the word terrorist for issues, but rather speaking about the certain elements of Islamic groups. We know that the Turkish government has been friendly to those groupings, and those groupings also abuse, of course, this Turkish sympathy of the Turkish government.
So there you go. Turkey and Jordan have been our partners in arming and training these guys. So, take that for what it is, but we created ISIS. So, problem, reaction, solution, we create ISIS. Now we have to get all this military gear and a whole nother boots on the ground. This is just such a waste of freaking money. I can't even get over it. And we created our own issue. And now they have these undetectable bombs. They're going to wage war on us. They're all partnering together. Holy shit, this is, since the Ottoman Empire, we've never seen anything like this. Oh! To me, why don't we just line them all up? All the people that are responsible for getting this all set up, and let's just Get rid of them all. Why don't we just take all these congressmen on the take, president, his corrupt attorney general, why don't we just send them all to Iraq? Let them all go battle it out. Let all the people that aren't voting for this, who don't want to spend their tax dollars, who didn't want a round 3 to get out of this. I didn't decide that my tax dollars were going to go to fighting Iraq again. And honestly, I don't even want to talk about this shit anymore. If you want to know my honest opinion, to me it makes my head hurt. And hey, you know what? It's all a big ploy to get the military-industrial complex to start turning some more profit for what are we in now? Let's see, January, February, March, April, May, June. So we just entered Q3. Q3 is going to look great on paper. All those congressmen that are invested in the military-industrial complex are going to make bank. They could sell their stocks. They could buy more stocks. They probably all bought more stocks at the beginning of the year. And I bet you Lockheed Martin and all those people out there, those companies that are actually considered people now. You saw that Hobby Lobby garbage, that now a corporation is considered a person and can make decisions. They are all going to be making all kinds of money. All right, I want to read the story, though, about this vulnerability on our power plants. Oh, lo and behold, aren't there all kinds of new vulnerabilities, especially when the jihadists are ramping up? Outgoing, and she's already gone. Outgoing Homeland Security Secretary Manit Napolitano. And I remember this. We read about it. She issued an open letter to her successor last year and warned that a, quote, massive and serious cyber attack targeting the U.S. power grid was imminent. Such an event, said Napolitano, would have immediate impact on everything from powering your home to grocery food deliveries. Yeah, and they never mentioned the nuclear power plants that require power to cool spent fuel pools as well as to keep the water flowing through the plants. At the very moment Napolitano made her comments, whether she knew it or not, a group of Eastern European hackers believed to be working closely with Russia's electronic spy agency had compromised upwards of 1,000 key infrastructure components around the world. That included wind turbines, gas pipelines, aviation systems, and power plants. According to the cyber firm Symantec, these state-sponsored hackers breached industrial control system equipment by first hacking physical computers responsible for managing grid components and then forcing them to download malware that made it possible to take control of an entire system remotely. Once in, the hacking group, known to security engineers as Dragonfly, was not only able to monitor operational status of every component on the access network, but they had gained the ability to shut them down completely with a single click of a mouse. Symantec analysts say that the new energetic bear virus, which is similar to Stuxnet, which is a malware program used by Israeli and U.S. intelligence agencies to remotely shut down centrifuges used in Iranian facilities, if you remember that a few years ago. But Stuxnet and Energetic Bear, and I believe there was another one in between called Flame that was very similar, are not unique in that how they compromise utility infrastructure networks. The Department of Homeland Security was tracking a number of viruses and Trojans as early as 2011 that had similar capability, though the extent of the breaches is not clear. According to the well-known security firm McAfee, the security holes in America's ailing infrastructure is staggering. A report issued by McAfee says that the essential utility components like water, power, and oil refineries have systems that can easily be compromised by hackers, and the effect of such an attack, whether executed by foreign enemies or rogue terrorists in the United States, which of course they're running all over, whack-a-mole terrorists, don't forget, would be devastating to a country like the United States, which depends on modern electrical and communications infrastructure. Guys, they are just ramping this up to such a level. And remember, we looked at some of that mind control research that's been going on by DARPA recently, and one of the ways that they were inserting and removing memories from that mouse that they were doing the studies on was by using electrical shocks and creating fear. That's that fear-based mind control. Despite the warnings from private security firms and repeated intrusions by state-sponsored hacking groups from Russia, Iran, and China, the United States remains susceptible to a variety of different cyber attacks, everything from military hardware systems to space agency satellites to public utility services have been attacked in recent years. The latest attack, believed to be orchestrated by a Russian-backed hacking group, shows that not only can these teams operate for months without being detected, but that they have already breached our networks and may have installed sleeper viruses that are simply waiting for commands to be executed on thousands of unsuspecting networks within the span of seconds. And with a simple click of a mouse, our entire national infrastructure could be rendered useless. If that is not a warning as to why, I don't care who says that people are chicken little and the sky is falling. I don't care if it's real jihadists or made-up jihadists or if it's Cyber Patrol that's actually behind all this, pushing a button to push us back into the Stone Age. The fact that they just came out and they told you it's possible, and we knew it was possible, but now they literally told you it was possible. You had Dick Cheney out saying the other day, oh, hey, look out, because we might still have these terrorists dressing up as illegals running across the border with suitcase nukes. I mean, people, if you can't see the writing on the wall, this is the end game, I'm telling you. I know we've been saying this forever, but they really, really, really are just setting this shit up. Mass chaos is about to ensue. At least from my personal perspective, I see that they want to set it all on fire. I don't know, good thing or bad thing. If we can get rid of them all, maybe it'd be a good thing. I don't know how much of a good thing it's going to be to set it all on fire. Because I know what they still don't ever mention, those nuclear power plants, but that's going to be a big freaking problem. And if all the shit hits the fan, think about this. All the people that are at their posts, at those power plants, at those nuclear stations, they're going to boogie. They're going to leave and go take care of their families. There's going to be nobody running the show. I highly recommend that if you don't know how close you are to a nuclear power plant, Fukushima Facts, my Fukushima site, FukushimaFacts.com, has that map out there under one of the live Earth and Sky tools. I believe I also have that on the live Earth and Sky tools on the UCY site. I would make sure you knew where that was. Also, nuclear power plant, iodine. Iodine is only going to help you for iodine 131. It is not going to be any type of magical bullet that's going to protect you from all the different types of radiation or the different radioactive isotopes during a massive meltdown. If they all melt down, we are in some deep shit, especially on the east coast of the United States where all of our fresh water is. So just know that. All right, so that leaves that on a really happy note. I don't know what I want to do now. I think I might just want to screw around for a little bit. Or maybe we look at some DARPA technology. I don't know if I even feel like doing that. I don't know. I started things off in kind of a bad mood today. I don't feel well, and I got way too much freaking work to do if I even expect to have a minute of peace to myself for this weekend. Something that I want to make everyone aware of, I enabled the Freedom Palooza link on the UCY.TV website. JJ is going to be at, I believe it's the 4th Freedom Palooza this year as MC. We managed to get his live streaming set up. I don't know, did all kinds of testing yesterday. I think he's using live stream and not the YouTube version. I need to get his new banner up on the page, but I do have the new embedded video window there. He also has it set up on againstthewall.info/FreedomPalooza. There is a built-in chat for the Ustream. So that should be going on, I believe, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday during daylight hours. There will be bands and lots of guest speakers. I know Shali is planning on being there Saturday. He said he's going to try to perform. I know Lady Pitbull is planning on being there. So I don't know if people are going to get up and speak or whatever, but it should be a good time. Hopefully it is not too hot. I know last year it was pretty baking. But anyway, so keep an eye out. I think after the show I'm going to just rework that Freedom Palooza banner quick, and I'll get that up there. So that page will be ready to go for the weekend. And you'll have to ask JJ for the times when the shows start on Friday, because that I do not know. Okay, so what do we get to next? Let's scroll here for a second and take a look. I might actually go hit my personal page and see what I dug up first thing this morning. I know there were some interesting things. I saw a show the other day, one of my science shows, that was actually talking about now that they absolutely believe that they have proven that water is alive. And they were showing all these weird qualities of water. And I mean, I already know water has a memory. They've shown that. They've shown how it remembers, like when a leaf, the shape of a leaf, when a leaf falls into water. They showed how emotional states can be imprinted upon water. We watched a documentary, actually when I was in Michigan visiting Lady Pitbull, about that. It was very, very interesting. But they were showing in this science show about how water can actually recognize chemicals that are put in it. It isolates the chemicals and it surrounds it and locks it in like a cage. It was very, very oddbally. There was one other thing too. Hold on. Let me open a new page so I don't lose where I was. My brain is still working in slow-mo. When I'm on by myself, I don't really get a break to go get coffee. So I am on a cold cup number 1, really. But here, let me hit my page. Because I wanted to take a look at this. We talked about the fracking ban. Oh, yeah, water behavior breakthrough opens a crucial door in chemistry. I'm assuming that this has something to do with the show that I just saw, because this is a brand new scientific paper that was just released. A multi-institutional team has resolved a long unanswered question about how two of the world's most common substances interact. In a paper published June 30th in the Journal of Nature Communications, Manos Makrovikayas, which looks like a really good traditional Greek name, Paul A. Elfers, professor of chemical and biological engineering at the University of Wisconsin of Madison, and his collaborators report fundamental discoveries about how water reacts with metal oxides. The paper, called Water Clustering on Nanostructured Iron Oxide Films, opens doors for greater understanding and control of chemical reactions in fields ranging from catalysts. Is that catalyst? Catalysis. I've never heard that term, but I'm assuming it is the act of a catalyst. To geochemistry and atmospheric chemistry. These metal oxide materials are everywhere, and water is everywhere. It would be nice to see how something as abundant as water interacts with materials that are accelerating chemical reactions. Yeah, so it's a catalyst. Those reactions play a huge role in the catalytic-driven creation of common chemical platforms such as methanol, produced on the order of 10 million tons per year for uses including fuel and as raw materials for chemical production. 90% of all catalytic processes use metal oxides as a support. Therefore, all of the reactions, including water as an impurity or a reactant or product, would be affected by the insights developed. I don't know what the purpose of this is, so this must not be the study that shows that water is alive. But it is showing, there was another part to that study that showed how they caged these other chemicals and reacted with them, and it was different than they had ever believed. So, I don't know, put on a seatbelt, because they're talking about nanoparticulates as well. This can't be a good thing for the world of nature in the future. Here, talking about privacy, let's take a look at this. So, I've heard about some of these new LED smart lights. There was a story a while ago that came out, and I almost didn't believe people that these things can spy on you. But there was a clip that came out. Of course, they're getting rid of all the incandescents.
People and places are switching to energy-saving LED bulbs. Now, a California company is turning those cutting-edge lights into networks. They can send and receive data, but as Bill Whitaker shows us, the technology creating new opportunities also raises privacy concerns.
Should you find yourself in Terminal B at Newark Airport, look up. Those aren't just new lights, they're smart lights, a sophisticated array of LED fixtures with built-in sensors and cameras connected over a wireless network. They monitor security, the flow of foot traffic.
Newark's primarily interested in energy savings.
Hugh Martin is president of Sensity, the Silicon Valley company that developed the smart lights at Newark and this parking garage in San Jose.
So these lights, they sense that we're walking?
Yeah, there's a motion sensor in each individual light.
What does this do as far as energy?
This week we saved about $3,500 or over $182,000 a year in energy saved just from this.
Across the globe, cities are phasing out old energy-wasting incandescent and sodium bulbs and replacing them with LEDs, which can act as a power hub that can be tailored for high-tech add-ons. That's the smart part. They're also 90% more efficient, longer lasting, and much brighter.
Whoa, that is bright.
There are about 4 billion outside lights in the world today. Imagine all these lights connected in one global network.
Yes, imagine.
This is one of just a few places in the country where a smart light network has been installed. This Silicon Valley building uses it primarily for security. And here's how it works. There are 40 lampposts in this lot, holding 83 LED lights connected to 7 cameras in a seamless grid that is tracking and recording my every move.
Oh, nice.
So we use the license plate recognition, and we also can detect people.
Kevin Kirk is chief engineer for the Shorenstein Company, which owns this building. The company plans to install smart lights at their properties across the country.
Everything goes up into the cloud, so we can access everything from anywhere. The future is limitless for this technology.
The Smart Light Network has the ability to spot an unattended bag at an airport and alert security, show drivers to empty parking spaces, alert shoppers of sales as they walk past retailers. Existing LED lights can be retrofitted with sensors to monitor pollution, measure snowfall, sniff out a dirty bomb before it can spew radiation.
There's no...
Is anyone else finding this highly disturbing? These lights can spy on us everywhere. And as GE decides that they are no longer making incandescents, that they moved over to China production, and now they're going to be producing LEDs, which require a hazmat team to clean up if you break one, which also they really don't have a good way to dispose of them, so they're just going to end up in standard landfills contaminating everything. They also are going to be the #1 smart cloud spy tool. I have a big issue with that. You know, one of my things, I want to go out and spend $1,000, I think, on incandescent bulbs. That's what I'm thinking. This is bullshit. All right, we're going to hear 2 more minutes of this.
Into the kind of information you could gather.
Yep. And therein lies the problem. In the future, the smart network could track every place we go, everything we buy, everything we do all the time.
It sounds rather Orwellian.
wouldn't at least the parents of kids at a school feel better if they knew that there was a analytic
A
that
spy?
looked for objects that could be guns on people that were coming into the school? Wouldn't that be a good thing?
We're all both benefiting and at risk from this.
Dr. Linton Wells with the National Defense University in Washington says technology is evolving faster than our policies to control it.
So I think the onus has to be on the citizen. It's your information that's at risk out there.
Is the technology getting ahead of us?
If we don't have the technology, we won't confront the issues and we won't figure out the right way.
With a smart light network, the future can be bright if we're smart about how we use it. For CBS This Morning, Bill Whitaker, Sunnyvale, California.
Yeah, the future
And the
might...
velocity of technology is really impressive, isn't it?
I feel that too, Charlie. It's almost like we got to catch up.
Nice piece.
The Big Brother's watching.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, isn't that a great technology? Ha, ha, ha. Wow, this is going to be so bright for us. Holy shit, guys. You know, here's the thing. I've had this argument with my one friend many times over. You know, he believes that technology and DARPA and all this is a good thing. And I'm going to tell you, being in technology for 25 years, okay, I always believed that. And I still believe that technology is a good thing. But the sad fact of the matter is that as humans, it seems to me that the people who are in charge have not morally evolved far enough to have the capabilities to be gods. And that's pretty much the position that they've put themselves in. I mean, for God's sake, they just created a new form of alien life. ACTG, the 4 proteins that exist in DNA, and now we have X and Y to add to that, and they've allowed it to reproduce. Okay, that is brand new life that never existed before on this planet that you better believe is going to continue. And in the end result, here's what my vision is. They are planning on working to get rid of all biological, pure, like version 1.0 life. That's what this is doing. We are being replaced with bigger, better, synthetic, silicone-based life forms, not the old school analog biological. That is a big problem for me. And I hate to tell you, but for all the promise that technology might show, until they can prove to me that this is going to be used for good, I myself cannot approve being a party to this. I don't want to be any part of this. Got about 10 minutes left, so I am going to read a story from Madison at endthelie.com that I caught this morning. It says, there's 2 of them actually. GM blood cells, genetically modified, to protect tomorrow's soldiers from bioweapons. Blood transfusions containing genetically engineered cells could be the future of countering germ warfare, according to research sponsored by DARPA, which hopes modified blood cells could help neutralize biological toxins deployed against soldiers. I'm going to tell you that I've already been talking about this whole plan. This also, I am certain, is part of that mRNA or the iRNA project where they are working on that universal flu vaccination. It isn't just for flu. This is actual RNA that can be injected into your body, see an incoming threat, and then modify your DNA to be able to protect itself against the incoming threat. So this will be against anything that is deemed threatening, whether it be a flu virus or it be some biological bioterror attack. This is in the research. Scientists from the Whitehead Institute for Biomedical Research in Massachusetts were supported by the U.S. Defense Research Project Agency, renowned for being the scientific funding branch of the U.S. military. The researchers involved said that the U.S. was very interested in deploying the discovery against any biological weapon threats. Quote, we wanted to create high-value red cells that do more than simply carry oxygen, says the White House founding member. There's my other beep. I really love the NSA. Hey. We wanted to create high-value red cells that do more than simply carry oxygen, says Whitehead founding member Harvey Lodish in a statement published on the Whitehead Institute website. Lodish collaborated with Whitehead member Hiddle Plogich in this project. The breakthrough study has been published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, which harvests Lodish's expertise in red blood cells with biochemical methods developed in the Plogich lab, referred to as sorta tagging. The approach uses, quote, bacterial enzyme sortase A. Remember, they are all enzymes. To bond between the surface protein and the substance of choice, be it a small molecule therapeutic or an antibody capable of binding to a toxin. Such modifications leave the cells unharmed. And here we have laid out the technology to make mouse and human red blood cells in cultures that can express what we want and potentially be used for therapeutic or diagnostic purposes. Guys, I have real problems with this. Now, this isn't talking about the M or the iRNA. So maybe this is a little bit different, but trust me, they are breaking down all of the mysteries that occur within our body and within the building blocks of life to make synthetic capabilities to be able to go in and manipulate those. They're going to sell it to you as a cure for cancer or a cure for something else that ails us, and for the cure for longevity and the Immortality Project. They might even sell it to you as the way for you to get proper health care once they put the substandard Obamacare in, where there aren't enough doctors and you're going to have some robo-doctor via HD camera that's sitting in his resort taking care of patients in the third world, New World America. Says researchers hope that the method could be used to deliver drugs and human organs, and in a number of benign medical practices such as treating strokes. So there you go. DARPA, created in response to the Soviet launch of Sputnik, was established in 1958 and tasked with the development of new technologies for the military. Creating and preventing strategic surprise is the company's motto. DARPA is interested in biological and medical sciences designed to improve DoD capabilities, benefiting the U.S. military and saving American lives. Yes, and we all know that they use the guinea pigs called the United States military that they allow to get blown to smithereens as their primary testing ground. It's where we have these retrieving and removing memories. They have some nanotechnology. They have these mind-controlled bionic arms. This is all happening in the military, soon to be tried on you. In DARPA's own 2008 assessment of the biorevolution, the author of the report, Jonathan Beard, states that DARPA's research focuses on, quote, protecting human assets, maintaining human combat performance, biology to enhance military systems, and restoring combat capabilities after severe injuries. Yeah. And believe it or not, they are working on the super soldier. We saw some of that, and on some of that X-Men military armor, body armor. I mean, this is not fantasy any longer. Programs in the area of maintaining human combat performance are aimed at maintaining warfare fighters' peak physical and cognitive performance once deployed, despite extreme battlefield stresses. Hey, let's let all the illegals come in and give them a path to citizenships, and we will have even more guinea pigs to try our technology on. And again, 2 hots and a cot. Nobody is going to fight with that. I don't know. I got a few minutes left. We got a couple things more going on. We got bombshell revelations in a Blackwater case. I don't know if I'm going to really have time to talk about that today. Obama and Republicans, so sue me. I don't know if you saw that. They were talking about suing Obama for his executive actions. Let's listen to that one. This is all such a joke. Fire them all!
But the Republicans have said no to raising the minimum wage. They've said no to fair pay. They've said no to extending unemployment insurance for over 3 million Americans looking for a new job. And this obstruction keeps the system rigged for those who are doing fine at the very top. It prevents us from helping more middle-class families. And as long as they insist on taking no action whatsoever that will help anybody, I'm going to keep on taking actions on my own that can help the middle class. Like the actions I've already taken to speed up construction projects and attract new manufacturing jobs and lift workers' wages and help students pay off their student loans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they criticize me for this.
He's being criticized for breaking the law and circumventing Congress. Now, this is the worst do-nothing Congress ever in history. If you remember, I played that clip probably 20 times now. But, on the other hand, that does not mean that you can break the law.
Boehner sued me for this. And I told him I'd rather do things with you, pass some laws. Make sure the Highway Trust Fund is funded so we don't lay off hundreds of thousands of workers. It's not that hard.
What, the $100,000 a year plow drivers?
Middle-class families can't wait for Republicans in Congress to do stuff.
This is like 8 years too late, buddy.
So sue me. As long as they're doing nothing, I'm not going to apologize for trying to do something.
Well, get in line. I don't know what to even say to that. So that's his excuse. So he's just going to start signing bills left and right with executive action. And this gun, I'm going to tell you what, this is a complete setup to go after the guns. You wait and see. It'll be normal now because, those damn Republicans, they are not going to do anything to protect the American people against these evil guns. I need to sign this gun legislation now. You wait and see. All right, people, I am in the last 50 seconds of the show. I don't even believe that I managed to pull 2 hours out of this. Yeah, all right. So, hey, do me a favor. PigMindNews.com. We pushed that up this morning, actually late last night. Help me do some beta testing. Start pounding that and let me know. Drop me notes if you find any issues. I think we might be making it live Friday for 4th of July. That has been in the works for a while. We've been coding like mad people. Also, Freedom Palooza starts Friday again. I am not sure what time the live shows are going to start, but there is a Freedom Palooza tab on UCY.tv as well as againstthewall.info. There's going to be programming all weekend, some repeats, some pre-recorded, some live. So make sure you come back. Stick around today, Wednesday nights. It's always fun on Wednesdays. Josh, Dana Martin, Mr. Jimmy Funky, and DB and Nick Barnaby. All right, guys. If I don't see you before, have a happy 4th of July weekend. I'm going to try to be here in the morning. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, take care.